Once upon a time in the projects.
The PJs, standing for the Projects, was an adult stop-motion animated sitcom that aired on Fox and the WB from 1999 to 2001 for 3 seasons. The show was about Thurgood Stubbs, the crotchety superintendent of a building in the projects, and the day-to-day lives of the residents of his building. The series' main attractor to audiences at its premiere was probably that Eddie Murphy starred in the show as the main character Thurgood. Murphy also co-created the show along with Larry Wilmore, maybe most known for his time on The Daily Show, and Steve Tompkins, who previously wrote for The Simpsons among other shows. This must have worked to draw in viewers, because the show was so popular in the first few months of its run that its ratings surpassed King of the Hills and Buffy the Vampire Slayers on Fox. However, most people today, me included until recently, have never heard of this show before. Why? Most likely because of the controversies the show caused, the overall lack of anything to make it stand out from other adult animation shows, and the stereotypical characters. However, my main focus of this video is on one character in the series in particular, Sanchez, and how he stands apart from the rest of the characters on the show, is a three-dimensional character that has depth, or at least the potential for depth if he was developed further, as opposed to the other characters on the show. First, I should let you know more about the show. First, I'll go over what the show is successful at. Number 1, the idea of setting a sitcom in the projects with an entirely POC, mostly black cast is ahead of its time in a lot of ways and represents a demographic we rarely see on TV. The characters in PJs had the potential to raise awareness about poverty and racism in America and how those living in the projects are oppressed. It would be interesting if the show was authentic to the experience of living in the projects, maybe drawing on real people's accounts. However, there is also a thin line you would have to walk for this to work, because it's important that the audience is laughing with the characters and not at them. This topic comes up more in a bit. Secondly, the animation on the show is beautiful, and maybe some of the best stop motion ever aired on a TV show. The puppets were made and animated by Will Vinton Studios with a technique they coined foamation. Instead of using clay, the characters' bodies were made of a bendable foam latex, and they had hollow plastic heads. The foam latex was easier to animate apparently, since the animators didn't have to spend time smoothing and repairing the characters like in claymation. It's also impressive that the animation was able to get done in time to fit a TV show schedule, every episode taking 28 weeks to complete. I especially love how expressive and unique the character design is on the show. The lighting, prop design, and environmental design are also just as impressive as the puppets and add to the aesthetic of the show. One thing I will say about the animation is that sometimes it's obvious the animators will reuse secondary characters for multiple small background roles, probably because it would take too long to make more, but it's easy to forgive this. Now for where the show fails. At first, the plots of the episodes are pretty much what you would expect. Down-to-earth, slice-of-life stories about living in poverty with an ironic, dark sense of humor, but still wholesome in the end. Season 1, Episode 3, The Door, Season 1, Episode 14, How the Super Stole Christmas, and Season 2, Episode 3, The Postman's Always Shot Twice, are good examples of this, since by the end of these episodes the residents band together to help each other out. However, after the first couple of episodes in the first season, the plots stray into unbelievable, unrealistic scenarios that seem to forget that the main characters live in poverty. Somehow the show goes from Thurgood trying to replace the door to the project's apartment building, to Thurgood meeting and fighting Jackie Chan. And that's just the beginning of what Thurgood gets into. It seems like the writers almost got tired of the limitations of writing characters who are poor, which is against the whole point of the show. The show also can't seem to decide what tone it wants to use. Sometimes it is wholesome, but it often takes on this edgy tone that is the complete opposite of this. Some of it is ahead of its time, I guess, like when the show mentions police brutality, but some of it is just acerbic and cool for no reason. The character Walter, one of Thurgood's friends, represents this well, since he's a parole officer who used to be a corrupt policeman. He often helps characters commit crimes. In one episode, he arrests a criminal and leaves him in the trunk of his car for no apparent reason, and all in all he gives creepy, almost gropey vibes.
Now hold on! We officers have always been able to come to an understanding regarding female prisoners, don't you think we can find a way to get her off scot-free?
This is kind of the complete opposite of the warm tone that I think the best episodes of the show have. Along with this, while it's understandable for characters living in tough living situations to make jokes about their lives, the show often punches down instead of up. Remember when I mentioned that the audience should laugh with and not at the characters? The show is fully laughing at the characters. Like Smokey, whose defining characteristic is that he's a crackhead. He's hated by Thurgood, who often calls him a
damn stupid crackhead!
He's often shown forgetting what he was doing or where he is due to his use of crack. He is homeless, he's addicted to crack, and all of this is played for laughs. But I didn't find Smokey's situation funny at all during the show, just sad. Along with punching down, the show leans heavily into stereotypes, racial or not.
Now let's meet our contestant. Our first contestant should know a thing or two about soul food. He's from Korea. Tell us, Jimmy, do you cook meat by the pound or from the pound?
Hey, I told you, I don't eat dog.
Now, it was just a little racially divisive joke to celebrate our differences.
Hola.
Hey, Frida Bandito.
Which brings me to the controversy the show caused when it first aired. Director Spike Lee said the PJs showed no love at all for black people and was very demeaning. And Project Islamic Hope, a Los Angeles religious group, called for national protest of the show because of its negative stereotyping of black people in their eyes. Along with racism, the show features plenty of fatphobia, homophobia, and misogyny, with SA being used as a joke a couple of times.
You know they violated me?
Oh God, they're crazy.
And to top it all off, what really makes the show suck is how thoroughly unlikable Thurgood is. It's nothing new for comedies to have a main character who has bad qualities to play for laughs. For example, Michael Scott. But Thurgood is a rude asshole to his wife, he barely cares about her, and he's a misogynistic, self-centered bully who routinely mocks others.
You see, women don't understand power. That's why there'll never be a woman king.
His attitude gets old very quickly on the show. Along with this, all the other characters in the show are stereotypical and boring. Muriel is nothing but nice. Bibi is a stereotypical sassy black woman. Her husband Jimmy's traits are basically only that he's Asian and thinks he's black for some reason. Mrs. Avery is an angry old lady who hits people around. And she does have a past as a con artist, which you think they would bring up because it's pretty interesting, but they don't. Haiti Lady / Mambo Garcelle Dupree is a voodoo priestess, and that's it. Calvin and Juicy are young friends in the building, with Calvin being skinny and smart and Juicy being fat and stupid, and Walter is a shady parole officer like I mentioned. You can imagine how 3 seasons with these characters gets old pretty fast. And to me it did. The show is largely unfunny to me. I mostly started watching it for the animation, although every once in a while a joke will make me laugh out loud. The only character I left out of this list is Sanchez, who for some reason has fascinated me as I've watched the show. He doesn't get old or boring in the way the other characters do, because his backstory is pretty fascinating. So let me tell you about how his character grows during the show. What we first learn about Sanchez, full name
Emilio Sanchez,
in the first season of the PJs, is that he's from Cuba. He lost his vocal cords to an addiction to smoking and uses an electrolarynx to talk.
All right, look. Now we gotta be as inconspicuous as possible. We want them to know we're here.
Okay, they're good.
Shh! You got no volume control on that thing?
I have reverb.
I can't talk through these damn machines.
Welcome to my hell.
He wanted to be an opera singer before losing his vocal cords, and he's mourning his dead wife Esperanza, who we later find died from smoking too somehow.
I have very romantic memories of this place.
Oh, darling, you sing much better than that Mario Lanza.
Soon, my opera career will take off and will be out of the projects forever. Oh, another cigarette?
Ah, those were the days.
Well, you can have them again.
No, death took that girl like a thief in the night. Oh, my beautiful Esperanza.
Already, Sanchez is more interesting than half of the characters on the show, in my opinion. He leaves some things unanswered, however. What caused Sanchez to become addicted? Why did he leave Cuba? Why was his wife addicted as well? And how did they meet? I should mention Sanchez's character design, which is kind of bizarre. The shirt he's wearing makes sense. It's a yellow gallabera, which is worn in Cuba. but he also wears a hat that says Nevada on it for some reason. The only explanation we get about this hat is that Sanchez actually bought it on the border between California and Nevada, but we don't know why he wears it. He wears this Nevada hat a lot, even to a funeral. He even wears an apron with Nevada on it once. He also uses a cane in the first season. This cane is strange because he only uses it for the first 7 episodes or so of the show, and then it disappears. We never find out what the use of it was. For alternative outfits, Sanchez also wears a very silly, old-timey nightgown to bed for some reason. It's great though, I love it. However, there might be an explanation for these design choices. Eddie Murphy actually got sued by a Chicago janitor for apparently taking his likeness for Sanchez's design on the show. Tally Collier says Murphy and the show producers saw him in an amateur documentary about living in the projects that was submitted to Oprah as an idea for a segment. Just kind of a weird idea for daytime TV, but never aired. Collier apparently used an electrolarynx, wore big baseball hats, and walked with a cane, and he also had a deceased wife. So this could explain the origin of Sanchez's design and some of his background if the allegations were true that the character was based off of him. We are first introduced to Sanchez on the show in this clip.
Sure, on the outside it looks like I have it all going on, but inside I'm empty. Last night I even tried to take my own...
Hold that innermost thought.
Already Sanchez is set up to be the depressed character of the bunch, since in this clip he admits to attempting suicide the night before, maybe from mourning his wife. The clip establishes his role as a sort of downer character.
And I'll be the clown making children laugh, as I am in life.
Which could lead to him being stereotypical and boring like the other characters. However, he also has silly and random moments on the show.
Freakazoids, report to the dance floor.
Now, I called this special meeting tonight because I have wonderful news. I personally have arranged with the good people of HUD to install something very special into our building.
What is it? No, don't tell us. What is it? No, don't tell us. Can I be the guy in your posse who laughs at all your stupid jokes?
Possibly.
Ha ha ha. I couldn't find a doll to play the baby Jesus in your nativity scene. How about this?
I don't know. This is pretty freaky looking. It might scare children.
We miss Mrs. Avery. Can we come sleep with you?
Yeah, all right, come on in.
In season 1, we first see how Thurgood, along with a lot of the other characters on the show, treats Sanchez like shit most of the time. For some unknown reason, even though he is nice to them. A common catchphrase other characters have when addressing Sanchez is
Shut up, Sanchez!
Shut up, Sanchez.
Shut up, Sanchez!
Shut up, Sanchez!
he often hangs out with Thurgood and his other friends, even though he's often belittled or given little attention by them.
Maybe you should watch less Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, and maybe you should learn sign language.
Amigos, can I share too?
Get lost, Sanchez!
Let's face it, they take us for granted. They think it's okay to ignore us and treat us like we don't
If
really...
you psychoanalyze it, the problem...
Walter and Mrs. Avery especially put him down pretty often.
Who invented charcoal?
Charcoal?
Boy, you really are pathetic, aren't you?
I'm here for the rent party. Now who's sponging off the rest of us? I bet it's that immigrant Sanchez.
Hey. Boy, I thought I was pathetic.
Don't get cocky, cancer man.
And people also seem to dislike him because of his voice, which alienates him from others.
Hey, quiet down.
Why don't you quiet down?
Don't talk to my husband like that.
It's the only way I can talk. The important thing is not to talk in a monotone. People really hate me. I mean, that.
In this first season, it's pretty evident that Thurgood isn't really a friend to Sanchez, and in reality, Sanchez is a very lonely person.
Now, what do you like best about the projects?
The friendships.
In this season, Sanchez is shown to have a quirky personality, often telling bad, grown-worthy jokes and long-winded stories.
And we bought Mr. Sanchez a hands-free apparatus for his voice box.
Now I'm not so self-conscious.
And Mr. Sanchez sold his hands-free thing.
It kept ripping my turtlenecks. Hello. Is this thing on?
Now, Mr. Sanchez, would you like a haircut?
No, I'd like them all cut.
I suppose that's a Minnesota accent.
Actually, I once spent a very lonely winter in Minnesota.
Shut up.
Mr. Sanchez, will you please just make up your mind? We have chicken and we have waffles. Please order some combination of those two items.
Okay, I'll have the chicken and waffle platter.
For here to go.
Let me see. Miss, I want to change my order. I think I want the... hold on.
It's also obvious from the show that Sanchez is still very much addicted to cigarettes, even though they took his voice from him.
Those things will kill you.
There's no proven link between cigarettes and death.
You up for a seance tonight? We could try and reach your beloved Esperanza.
I just bought 4 cartons of unfiltered Luckies. I'll see her soon enough. I lost my voice, my wife, my whole life to cigarettes. I'll take a case of the 100. I'm back!
He's also demonstrated to be pretty smart and always knows the proper way to do things.
Then who should live in this apartment?
It is customary for the building superintendent to decide.
Shut up, San... Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, speak up, Sanchez.
The superintendent has the authority to select new tenants in cases of...
All right, now shut up.
And at the end of the first season, Sanchez mentions his brother is a political prisoner in Cuba.
I was kind of saving to get my brother out of that Cuban jail. He's a political prisoner.
Don't be selfish. Throw it in.
And finally, for the first season, a small detail I didn't notice the first time I watched the show is that Sanchez shows signs of PTSD, such as getting scared by loud noises. I'll delve more into this when I get into the third season. In Season 2, Sanchez is shown not to be able to stand up for himself and has low self-esteem. He still cares about his neighbors, however.
What's going on?
They're trying to deport me, but I'll die before I go back to my beloved Haiti. Here, hold this. I'm going down the American way in a bloody standoff with the federal government.
But according to Section 239B of the Immigration and Naturalization Act...
I don't have time for your robotic yammering, you pathetic freak.
Okay. I was just going to offer to marry you so you could stay in the country. But never mind.
Oh, wait. I could do freaky.
I now pronounce you man and wife.
Oops. Sorry. Force a habit.
I'll teach social studies.
And I'll teach debate.
Oh, hell no you won't.
You in.
You know, you lucky. You get to stay out all night and nobody care.
Yeah.
I can stay out all night.
Nobody cares, Sanchez. Nobody panic. I got a flashlight right here. Rats, the batteries are dead. Sanchez, give me the ones from your voice box.
But if I give you my batteries, I won't be able to...
Shut up. Quiet. Much better.
My friend? No. Don't worry, I kept the batteries.
Hey, if someone was making you kill somebody, would you pick Sanchez?
Yeah, I would pick Sanchez.
Along with being treated badly by those around him, Sanchez becomes a sort of bad luck character who always gets hurt or has bad things happen to him.
The fire escape.
Somebody put me out!
And the fire extinguishers.
I got it!
Hit the brake! It's on the left!
My left or your left? What was that?
I don't know. I think we hit a speed bump. Calvin?
Yeah?
Should you be driving the car?
No, Mom.
Was that another speed bump?
It is now.
Hello?
Nothing's gonna get by me anymore.
this isn't meant to offend anyone, but in season 2, we see Sanchez has some autism-esque traits.
All right, listen. We're gonna use these chess pieces to go over our strategy. We're gonna stake out the whole movie theater. I'll be here, Jimmy's over here, Sanchez, you're here.
I can't be there, because then I can only move diagonally.
We ain't playing chess. Good, Sanchez. You keep 'em occupied with one of your long, boring stories.
I don't think I'm the best qualified to be long-winded.
You know, he thinks the ant is the most interesting insect.
What? Has he never seen the terrifying majesty of the Texas potato beetle? If you ask me, maggots have always gotten a bad rap.
Mr. Social Services guy, we're ready for you now.
Thank you.
I have to finish cataloging all the insects in the building. I was gonna go silver fishing tomorrow.
Thurgood and the gang interpret this as Sanchez being boring and long-winded, but it's possible he just likes to talk a lot about his special interests. He's also shown to be musically talented, playing guitar, harmonica, drums, and even singing.
All right, take it, Sanchez.
Well, you can't sing the blues, if you ain't known a little pain. Boy, isn't that the truth? Did I ever tell you about the time I saw a family drowning? It was so...
Oh, what the hell are you doing? Listen, you don't talk the blues, you sing the blues. That's the last time I tell you to take it. Give it back.
In this season, Sanchez mentions that the dead wife jokes he receives from his friends don't seem so funny in a scene where their wives are in danger.
We have to do something, or our women will die!
Suddenly the dead wife jokes aren't so funny, are they?
This reveals how cruel the residents are willing to be to Sanchez, even mocking the death of his wife. Sanchez also mentions that Thurgood is only a pretend friend to him in this season.
They're not my friends, they want to kill me. So I'll come up with an idea that just might work. You guys are gonna have to kill me first.
Kill you?
Now I'll have no pretend friends.
In this season, we also get the first mention of Sanchez's father.
Okay. Whose was the cigar box full of dust?
My father's ashes. I'm so happy to have them back. Hello, Papa. Viejo Diablo.
Whose ashes he addressed as Old Devil. This is a hint to more information we will gain about his dad in season 3. Sanchez in this season is also shown to be the voice of reason among his friends, always keeping a logical level head when his neighbors are going too far.
Wait, shouldn't we stop and think about this before we do something rash?
It's the rash what's making me take it.
Hey, we got every right to steal this.
Taking the water filter was one thing, but this is just pure greed. We don't need this stuff. We're doing just fine with our phone books and Pizza Hut flyers. Do we really want to think this low?
I do.
I do.
I do it all the time.
Oh, what the hell? You only suffer through life once.
Sanchez takes pride in one episode in the season in having something Castro doesn't have.
Sanchez, what the hell are you doing?
Finally, I have something Castro doesn't have. Viva la liberación!
Sanchez, put that away before you get us all arrested.
And he also seems to have a particular beef with Walter, since when Thurgood pretends to be hurt by Walter, Sanchez calls him a fascist.
Ah! Hey! Help! Police brutality! Somebody please do something!
A fascisto! I spit on you!
So he still seems to think a lot about Cuba in his everyday life. It's also revealed in this season that Sanchez's brother was deported back to Cuba because Thurgood lied and said there were no vacant apartments left for him in the building, when Thurgood was really keeping one for himself.
What is this place?
Oh, it's my secret spare apartment. Now come on, somebody grab him, help me get him.
You let my brother get deported back to Cuba because you said there were no vacant apartments.
Hey, this place isn't for me, it's for all my stuff. But that doesn't matter right now, we gotta get Smokey out.
This demonstrates how little Thurgood really cares about Sanchez if he was willing to allow his brother to be deported. Season 3 features the episode we gain a lot of knowledge about Sanchez from, and this is the only episode in the show solely about him, Scarthra. This episode referencing Scarface is crazy considering Sanchez's voice actor Pepe Serna actually acted alongside Al Pacino in the real Scarface. It's also a very cathartic episode, since it involves Sanchez taking revenge on his neighbors for treating him like dirt for all these years. The episode starts with Thurgood getting everyone to plan a party for New Year's Eve, which happens to be for the year 2000. As Thurgood is setting up groups to prepare different things for the party, Sanchez realizes no one present wants him in theirs.
Who would like Sanchez on their committee? Anyone? Anyone? Cricket?
So Thurgood assigns him to help the absent from the meeting Walter and Jimmy. Once Sanchez joins them, they kick him out because they don't like his sense of humor.
All right, we need to come up with some party games. Something intellectual yet stimulating. I know, we'll do strip chess. Yeah.
Oh yeah, as in Bishop takes Queen.
Knight to pawn 4. You see, it's stupid because that move would be suicide.
Get out.
Next, he joins Muriel to decorate cookies. But because of his perfectionism, she snaps at him and calls him a freak.
Okay, guys, we don't have much time, so let's work as fast as we can.
Green one here. Red one here. Blue one here. No, this is all wrong.
Just put the friggin' sprinkles on the friggin' cookies, you friggin' freak!
Finally, Thurgood gives him a solo task, to read a Y2K preparation manual he was given from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and to write up a memo for everyone on how to survive Y2K. However, it's obvious that Thurgood really doesn't care about the matter and is just trying to keep Sanchez out of his hair. When New Year's Eve comes around, the party is going perfectly and everyone in the building except for Sanchez is having fun on the roof. Then the entire city's power blacks out. The residents, seeing a light coming from Sanchez's room, rush to his apartment for help. He warmly welcomes them into his room, with a generator in the corner and food stockpiled on the walls, and says somewhat irritatedly that he prepared for the Y2K disaster like it said in the guide he wrote for everyone, that no one read, and stockpiled food.
Sometimes I don't know why I put up with you people. Page 1. Access to checks, food stamps, and supplies will be indefinitely interrupted as HUD computers are not Y2K compliant.
What's Y2K? What's compliant?
Ay, Dios mío, Lord, give me strength. All the stores have been sold out for days, but fortunately for you, someone had the foresight to plan ahead and the generosity to share with his friends.
Of course, now we know that Y2K was mostly a hoax, but it's interesting to think people really thought they would need to get survival supplies to prepare for it. Anyway, even though his friends and neighbors didn't listen to his advice to prepare for Y2K, Sanchez still decides to generously share his food with them. His friends immediately grab food frivolously and greedily and leave. Sanchez then realizes that because of his neighbor's initial greed, he now has to ration what's left of his food for the entire building if everyone wants to survive long enough for the power to come back on. He soon realizes that even though he is keeping everyone in the building alive, they still hate him because they can't eat as much of their favorite foods as they used to, and they are stuck rationing gross powdered food instead. Sanchez can't understand this, since he compares self-control to fun.
I know this all seems a little severe, but we can get through this if we just exercise a little self-denial and a healthy sense of fun. Well, those are really one and the same, aren't they?
It says he respected and dreaded his father because of his strict discipline.
I thought you would all respect me for my resourcefulness and strict discipline. Much the way I respected and dreaded my own father.
Which is an interesting look into his personality. This is also the start of hearing about Sanchez's father in this episode. We know that he respected and dreaded him. This also makes sense with calling him an old devil before. He greets his father's ashes happily, but also dislikes him. He tries to imitate his father in order to be a good leader, because he respects him even though he was terrified of him as a kid. Discipline, however, hasn't seemed to be a factor in Sanchez's personality until we heard this. However, he may have been trying to be disciplined like his father behind the scenes, Maybe when he practices instruments, for example. However, Sanchez's addiction to cigarettes seems to completely contradict this emphasis on discipline. This could be a source of shame in Sanchez's life, since his father would be ashamed of him for his addiction if he were alive. We know he was addicted by the time he met his wife, since they shared cigarettes and both suffered from abusing them, so it must have started when he was younger. His addiction could have been his way to rebel against his father's strictness as a teen, or it could have been caused by his depression or apparent PTSD gained from life during the revolution in Cuba, since there's a link between poor mental health and addiction. Or his addiction could be trying to fill a hole in his life, perhaps a hole left by lack of love from his father and possibly his mother. Growing up during the Cuban Revolution probably shaped who Sanchez is in many ways, including the PTSD symptoms I mentioned earlier. If Sanchez is around 50 in 2000, he would have been born in 1950, and therefore he would have been very young when the Cuban Revolution was happening from 1953 to 1959. The constant exchange of bullets and bombs between the rebels and Batista's forces in Cuba would likely cause any child distress, especially if they got too close to the action once, and maybe gained an injury from it, which could be the cause of Sanchez's PTSD. He often jumps, ducks, or starts shaking around loud noises during the show.
Very good. What do you know about running a radio station?
I say we move out and try to find gas. Or help. Or at least...
I heard that. Wait!
We've gone 10 steps and we're still alive.
This could also be caused by his father, however, if the reason Sanchez dreaded him was because of physical abuse as well as emotional abuse. Unfortunately for Sanchez, the show has its fair share of violence, such as when the characters run into trouble in bad neighborhoods surrounding the projects. It seems like Sanchez tried to escape violence by coming to the United States, but poverty has kept him trapped and surrounded by it. Back to the episode, Thurgood tells Sanchez to hold a dinner party for all the residents to get them to like him again, since they can splurge and eat frivolously. Sanchez says that his father would be ashamed of his weakness if he did that, but he will do it to make his friends happy. The scene seems to reveal that secretly Sanchez cares a lot about what his father would think about what he does, and considers it often, and this might contribute to his low self-esteem, since he couldn't live up to his father's strict discipline and expectations in the end, becoming an addict who lives alone in the projects. It also reveals how much Sanchez cares about his friends, if he's willing to go against his values to help them. When the dinner comes around, everyone is happy with Sanchez for letting them have such a treat. However, when he stands up to give a speech thanking everyone for their support and love, Bibi drunkenly says that the only reason people have been nice to Sanchez is for his food, which is most likely true. And then Sanchez says the line that was the reason I made this whole video.
So, it's like that, eh? Back in Cuba, my father had a saying. Bite the hand that feeds you and it'll be the last bite you take, you pitiful little mama's boy. Why can't you be more like your brother? And the same goes for all of you, except for that last part. So enjoy your meal, for it will be the last one you get from me.
This line was one of the things that made me want to make this video, because it made me so curious about what Sanchez's life must have been like growing up, and it struck me how complex his background is compared to every other characters on the show. So Sanchez had mentioned his brother before, and all we had known about him so far was that he was deported back to Cuba from the United States, so he must have come to the United States at the same time as Sanchez, or at least when Sanchez was already in the US, and he is currently a political prisoner in a Cuban jail. Knowing that his father wished he was more like his brother because he was too much of a mama's boy changes how we understand the brothers' dynamic. His father called him pitiful and a mama's boy, and while the term literally means a boy who spends too much time with his mother, it also has a connotation of femininity and weakness. Since Sanchez's brother is a political prisoner in Cuba, he probably is an activist or journalist, someone who took a stand against the government, an act which seems very different from the actions of mild-mannered Sanchez. So it seems that Sanchez's brother was always the more traditionally masculine and virile between the two of them, and Sanchez's father loathed him for not being as manly as him. The inability to live up to his father's wishes by being too feminine, too pitiful, too attached to his mother must weigh greatly on Sanchez's mind. The symptoms of PTSD might be shameful to him as well, because he sees them as weakness. It seems Sanchez also can't live up to the wishes of others in the present. Around his friends, his humor isn't good enough, around his neighbors, he isn't liked enough, and he isn't as naturally social as other people. Thurgood tells Sanchez in this episode to improve his social skills.
Sanchez, you gotta work on your people skills a little.
Showing that he's a little socially awkward and he doesn't fit in. So after Bibi insults him in the episode, the pressures of the survival situation he's in this episode, and the scorn of his neighbors cause Sanchez to kind of lose it, as he runs away from them laughing maniacally. He promises that they will never get food from him again after this incident. So the next scene is a parody of The Godfather, with Sanchez deciding who in the building can get what supplies from him. He takes on the very masculine role of a mafia don. It's like he's heard his entire life what people want him to be, so he finally decided to follow their advice, to be as cold and careless as his neighbors, and as manly and disciplined as his father would have wanted. After this development, the tenants become tired of being hungry, and are angry at Sanchez for being a tyrant by hoarding food, which is funny considering they hated him when he did give them food as well. But anyway, the climax of the episode is Sanchez's neighbors trying to take the key to his food cage from him. Sanchez has completely gone crazy by now and is acting the opposite of his usual self.
We will die before we give up our precious key, won't we, Tarnell?
His assistant Tarnell breaks down crying, and what he says to him is interesting, repeating what his father said to him as a kid.
Get up, you pitiful little mama's boy!
Perhaps his father said such things to him when he cried. Anyway, his neighbors find the key to his weapons cabinet and threaten him to hand the food key over.
That's not the key to the food cage, idiots! That's the key to my gun cabinet! Uh-oh.
Give us the key, Sanchez, or be prepared to meet your filthy maker.
But he pulls out a grenade instead.
You win. You win. No, I win. Say hello to my little friend.
He says to them,
I release this lever and the whole building comes down. I tried to make you love me. Now you will fear me.
This line is interesting. Has Sanchez been trying his best to make his neighbors love him, not only in this episode, but during the whole show, and he just couldn't do it? It's an incredibly sad sentiment. The threat to use a grenade against his neighbors soon becomes useless, however, when the electricity suddenly comes back on in the city and everyone leaves him to get food from the grocery store. This comment from a YouTube upload of the episode made me want to make this video, and I think it actually sums it up the best. Poor guy is a widower cigarette addict who lost his superb singing voice and has severe daddy issues and constantly faces disrespect and gets injured. And at the end of the episode, instead of getting anything different in terms of dynamics, everyone just doubled down on how unlikable he is afterwards. I know the PJs is a sitcom, and the episodes don't really connect to each other with any overarching plot, but it would have been nice to see the characters change their attitude towards Sanchez at one point. So in summary, this episode is basically Sanchez being turned into a villain by having to deal with his rude neighbors during a stressful survival situation. He goes from freely handing out his food and supplies to rationing them out to keeping them from his neighbors, all solely because of the actions of the neighbors, and by the end of the episode they still treat him like he was a problem the whole time. This could have some kind of deeper meaning or connection to something that I can't see. Maybe the episode is saying that people make those into villains who they already saw as villains, or those who they already wanted a reason to dislike or villainize. I do think it is to Sanchez's credit that although he was raised in an emotionally abusive, as far as we know, environment, he didn't turn out as an abusive, toxically masculine man like his father. Instead, he became a gentle and understanding person. Anyway, this episode is the most significant one for Sanchez for the season, and probably for the whole show. and nothing else nearly as interesting about him is revealed during the rest of Season 3. We do get some fun things though. For some reason, the writers in this season started writing gay jokes about Sanchez. Like, did they forget the whole thing with his dead wife they wrote 2 seasons ago?
Nola dissed me today. It made me realize I'll never get a girl. Maybe I'm better off being a confirmed bachelor like Mr. Sanchez.
Huh?
Well,
One of you has the hots for Muriel and is sending her flowers. Sanchez, it was you, wasn't it?
Actually, I've never been attracted to women.
Well, I suppose that comes as news to no one.
You didn't let me finish. Women who are married to my friends.
Muriel's gone. I can party like it's 1979.
We can start with a bite to eat at the old Rib Shack.
And shoot some pool at One-Eyed Jack's.
Is there a place we can go disco roller skating? What? I like to roller boogie.
Sanchez, you can leave your sequin shirt in the closet. Well, thanks for picking up the tab, Walter.
I didn't get it.
I didn't pay, and all Sanchez did was look at muscle magazines.
What about getting some back-end participation?
Do that on your own time, Sanchez.
Come, Muriel. Let's show these people who's the real queen of the ball. You. I mean you. Very good. Can I take a ride on your pole?
What?
What? I want to pretend I'm Batman. I just can't decide. I know I don't like breast, and I do like dark meat.
I guess they're saying he isn't gay, but he acts gay, or he's bisexual? Anyway, it doesn't really make sense, and again, it's humor that's punching down. It seems like Sanchez's friends are making fun of him for being too feminine the same way his father used to. And that brings me to the end of Sanchez's run on the show. So, all in all, Emilio del Silverio Sanchez is a Cuban-American, widowed, suicidal, bisexual, autistic nicotine addict with PTSD, depression, and daddy issues, living in poverty, whose entire family is either dead or in prison as far as we know. I don't know why the writers decided to go so hard on Sanchez's lore compared to every other characters, but I'm so glad they did. He is a fully developed character compared to the other characters inhabiting his universe, who are definitely more one-note. It sucks that most of his moments on the show are using him for comedic relief by blowing him up and stuff, when we could know more about him if those moments were used to show us more about his character. I definitely want to know more about what happened to Sanchez in the past. In conclusion, Sanchez represents the loser archetype used in sitcoms, people who always have bad luck and are unliked by those around them. You could imagine that such a character would be unimpressive, but the idiosyncrasies of Sanchez's personality are charming to me instead, and make him stand out on the show. I found myself watching episodes of the PJs solely to see more moments of Sanchez and to find out more about him. And I hope that this video has convinced you to watch the show as well, even though it is imperfect. Like I mentioned before, the animation makes it worth a watch even if the plots are dated. This video is kind of odd, I know, because I don't think anyone out there is begging for a video on an obscure character from a short-lived 90s claymation sitcom, but I hope you enjoyed the ride along with me anyway. I also recommend watching the show yourself, since there are clips I didn't show in this video featuring Sanchez that are entertaining as well. He's honestly the only tolerable character on the show, and I feel like I would get along well with him if I met him in real life. Anyway, I might upload like a best of video of clips of Sanchez, since I was able to get good quality videos of the show. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you guys have any more information on Sanchez or the show, feel free to leave it in the comments.